In the painful story called Porsche Mann Got Her Own, Father Arrested, you used Mom like a damn product. A truth once buried under gospel music, staged devotionals, and forced smiles has now been brought to light. At the center is Porsche Mann, who made a choice that shocked an entire industry. She turned against her own father, David Mann, a man the world knew as funny, faithful, and loving. But behind the scenes, Porsche says he was none of those things. In her words, "My father's silence is guilt," a sentence that tore apart the perfect picture the family had spent years building. What Porsche revealed was not a single act of betrayal, but a careful plan built over years, hidden behind church sermons and anniversary selfies. Her mother, Tamala Mann, loved by millions for her powerful voice and kindness, was, according to Porsche, slowly broken down, silenced, and controlled. Porsche didn't come forward out of revenge. She did it, she says, because her mother almost died. And the reason was never exhaustion or bad luck. It was, Porsche claims, a cold plan to use Tamala's name, voice, and image until there was nothing left. It began quietly, Porsche explained, with small decisions disguised as family business. But soon it became clear it wasn't about family at all. Porsche says her father's real priority was the brand, the tours, and the money. Dr. Jackie, a doctor trusted by the family, is accused of helping keep Tamala performing when she was too sick to stand. Porsche describes a world where her mother was forced on stage with oxygen hidden behind curtains, where her life meant less than a concert's success. In Porsche's voice, the pain is clear. Tamala, whose songs comforted strangers, was herself denied comfort. Porsche says her mother was pressured to keep performing while secretly struggling to breathe. She didn't want to be on stage with an oxygen tank, Porsche explained. That wasn't faith or strength. It was survival forced by people she trusted. This was no accident, Porsche claims. It was a carefully managed business, where the star was no longer a person, but a product. The picture Porsche paints is frightening. Papers signed when Tamala was sedated, giving David full control over her health and finances. Secret insurance policies naming him as the only person to gain if Tamala couldn't perform, or worse, if she died. Even emails Porsche found, where David and his team planned Tamala's schedule while she was unconscious. One email said, "As long as she can walk to the mic, we're good." Words so cold, they still echo through Porsche's story. This story became even darker when Porsche listened to a recording of her mother in a hospital bed, whispering words that broke Porsche's heart. "Why won't he let me stop? I can't breathe. I'm not his wife anymore. I'm his property." Those words, Porsche says, changed everything. In that moment, Porsche stopped trying to protect the family image. She picked up the phone and called 911. David Mann was arrested, with charges kept sealed for now. Rumors speak of fraud, medical neglect, and elder abuse. But the arrest was only the start. Porsche began looking deeper into the family's business, finding contracts her mother never remembered signing, insurance policies that seemed timed too perfectly with Tamala's health crises. Porsche realized this was never about one bad decision, but a system built to protect the money, not the person behind it. Dr. Jackie, the doctor trusted to heal Tamala, is accused by Porsche of pushing unnecessary treatments and staying silent about Tamala's real condition. Leaked voicemails suggest Dr. Jackie's focus was never Tamala's health, but the brand's survival. Porsche says Tamala was given treatments not for healing, but to keep her on stage just long enough to finish the tour. Porsche confronted other family members, hoping for help. Some admitted they knew Tamala was unwell, but were afraid to stop the tour. "She's the brand. We needed her to finish," Porsche says they told her. Those words showed Porsche that even family had become part of the system keeping Tamala trapped. Porsche then took action. She moved Tamala to a recovery facility, away from cameras and promoters. She blocked access to accounts, cut off people tied to David's financial plans, and brought in real doctors whose only job was to help Tamala heal. At last, Tamala could breathe without worrying about the next show. While Tamala began to recover, David's silence grew louder. No statements, no defenses, no Bible verses posted online. Just quiet. Porsche said, "His silence is guilt." Fans who once saw the Mann family as perfect began to question everything. Old interviews were re-watched. Moments where Tamala stayed quiet, where David spoke over her, began to look different. What once seemed like shyness now looked like fear. As Porsche continued speaking, more secrets surfaced. A plan to use AI technology to recreate Tamala's voice without her consent, so albums could still be released, even if she was too sick to record. Porsche stopped it, but the fact it had been planned showed how far some were willing to go to keep the money flowing, even if Tamala herself could not sing. Churches and sponsors who had supported David and Tamala began to panic. Videos were deleted, statements released, asking for prayers, while comments were turned off. Federal investigators stepped in, reviewing family finances, church donations, and unexplained withdrawals. Over $650,000 reportedly missing from Tamala's business accounts, taken while she lay in a hospital bed. Tour managers and staff began to speak. One remembered David saying, "If she can walk, she can sing. If she can't walk, prop her up." Not words of love, but of business. Tamala, who had given her voice to lift others, was herself treated as a tool. Porsche also found medical directives signed when Tamala was too sick to consent, giving David total control even over her adult children. One was dated the same month Tamala collapsed during a performance. To Porsche, it felt less like care and more like control. Insurance documents revealed more. 3 separate policies taken out in Tamala's name, all naming David as the only person to receive money. One included a clause paying out if a tour was canceled due to Tamala's illness or death. Porsche asked, "Was this marriage or a business plan?" Fans online reacted with shock and anger. Tamala was not only a star, but someone whose songs had helped people through pain and loss. To hear that behind those songs was a woman struggling to breathe made it even more heartbreaking. Porsche didn't stop with words. She took the evidence to lawyers, filed lawsuits for fraud, emotional abuse, and medical neglect. Former insiders began to support her, adding more proof that what Porsche said was true. At the same time, Tamala's record label began its own investigation, worried they might be blamed for ignoring signs of abuse. Streaming services reconsidered contracts. Churches removed David and Tamala's names from future events. As Tamala healed quietly, Porsche kept fighting. She promised more evidence, more witnesses, and said court dates would come. What started as a family conflict had grown into something larger, a question about an entire industry built on forcing people to smile and sing no matter what it cost them. Porsche's fight is not just against her father. It is against a system where silence protects power, where money matters more than health, and where love becomes a brand. Tamala, who spent years performing until she collapsed, now finally lives without needing to perform. In a leaked message, she said, "I'm not performing right now. I'm living for the first time in years." Those words carry hope, but also sadness for the years lost. Fans began to see Tamala not as an icon, but as a person. someone who gave light to others even when her own life was darkened by control and fear. Behind the songs that healed were nights of pain, silence, and pressure. Portia's choice to speak came with a price. She lost family, faced anger from those who wanted to keep the truth hidden, and stood alone in a world that didn't want to listen. But she kept speaking, because for her, saving her mother mattered more than keeping secrets. Church leaders, sponsors, and industry insiders now face questions. How much did they know? Did they see Tamila's exhaustion and stay silent? Were they part of the problem by asking for one more performance? One more song? David Mann's arrest was only the start. Investigators continue to look at money transfers, medical records, and deals signed while Tamila was too sick to object. Leaked messages show some insiders knew Tamila wasn't well, but kept quiet to protect ticket sales. For Tamila, the days of forced performances and hidden oxygen tanks are over. In the quiet of recovery, she is healing not just from illness, but from years of being used as a product instead of loved as a person. The gospel industry, once so sure of its power, now watches in fear. Sponsors pull back, churches delete posts, and people who once praised David Mann stay silent. The image carefully built over decades has cracked, revealing a truth too painful to ignore. Portia's courage has changed everything. By refusing to stay silent, she forced the world to see what was hidden behind the songs, the smiles, and the faith. Her words, "My father's silence is guilt," remind everyone that sometimes love means telling the truth, even when it destroys everything you know. Now, fans, industry leaders, and churches must decide what matters more: protecting an image or standing with the truth. Portia's fight shows that behind the beauty of gospel music, real lives can be sacrificed for profit. And her story is a call to never look away again. As this story continues, more may come to light. More people may step forward. But what Portia has already done is enough to change how we see fame, faith, and family. She turned pain into action, silence into truth, and in doing so, saved her mother's life. Porsche Mann got her own father arrested, not for revenge, but to protect the woman who once protected her. And in speaking out, she showed that sometimes love means choosing truth over silence, even when the cost is everything. And that, in the end, is the real gospel. Not a song, not a performance, but the truth spoken in love, no matter how painful. If you'd like, I can polish it, format it as a video script, or add chapter-style headings to keep readers engaged over 4,000 words. Just let me know.